These people look like they've ever been in captivity. Are we to believe that these people were kidnapped from somewhere in Africa and brought all the way to California? I hope this presentation has given you enough information to spark you to do your own research. And when you do your own research, you will come to the same conclusions that I have, that African Americans ain't African.
However, there is another black group, a pre-Columbian black group in the Americas, mostly along the West Coast. California was now Acapulco. A black group of people who do not trace their ancestry to Africa. No one can understand where these people have come from. None of them survive anymore. They do not exist. They have been either bred out of existence or they were the victims of disease or whatever. However, with this new DNA testing, which is now, in other words, all the DNA of every group in the world is now fed into a computer. A computer then can make correspondences, comparisons between every other group. This black group, which they found traces of in the Americas, matches, strangely enough, with Micronesia on the other side of the Pacific to a people called the Negritos. These are black people who trace their origins not east from Africa, but westwards across the Pacific. Now that leaves a tremendous problem. How is it possible that these Negritos or their ancestors could have possibly come across the vast expanse of the Pacific to come here? Moreover, there's a real cultural problem. The blacks that were here in the Americas were great builders of civilization. They were part of this Olmec culture. There was no doubt they were highly sophisticated.
Amazing people. Ain't no telling. They claim, some people say 12 million people on the slave trade. They might have brought maybe one or two boats over here, but I believe we are the additional people because we don't even look like African people. That's right. You can get the blackest, you can get Project Black out the project, the blackest nigga in the project, and get an African, the blackest African, you can tell which one is which. We just don't look like them, period.
Amalgamate native people with other races to get rid of the Indian color. Yeah. Now, when you look at the Byrd papers, and you would read his diary on April the 7th, 1728, he actually visited our reservation in Jerusalem, Cortland, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And what's so interesting about that, he described how our people look. He said the young men came out and their faces were painted and they made all kinds of grotesque figures and they danced for him to the sound of a war drum stretched tight with an animal skin. Then he said the young women came out and they were tall and shapely and dressed in their finery. Their hair was braided and they had white and blue conch shells in their hair that hung like locks and around their neck. And then they had wrapped around their body a match coat, which was red and blue, which is a shawl, that fitted loosely about their body, that their mahogany skin shone through. Then he went on to say that these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations, unquote. That's a quote that he made.
So that was our whole goal, was to try to bleach out, as they say.
Yeah, but it kind of tells you that first Americans were a rich brown people. They were mahogany in color. That these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations. That these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations. That these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations. That these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations.
African Americans and America as a whole.
Some Africans.
As a whole, the history of African Americans in America, right, does not really work in the favor of African Americans.
Can I ask you a question? No, that's a fact.
Okay.
What do when not all, when you tell an African American Now times have changed. Now we're now getting 2015 now. But as African American, are you African? Oh hell no, I ain't African. You're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. We're not wrong. We're not wrong. It's not wrong. No, they're wrong. Because it's just the reaction. Okay. Sure. Now, and I could be a little sensitive because of how I was. Okay, hold up. Here's okay. This is going to answer that question. So the history of African Americans in America does not necessarily work in their favor based on everything that was logged. As you see all the movies, 12 Years a Slave, it's a constant reminder. Hey, African Americans, this is your story in America. When I was in Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America. I know of the African American story until I got to America and found out. That's true. Right? I did not know anything about slavery. All I knew was we were all given king's names. Right? I did not know anything about slavery.
Always vague with us. I asked this African dude one time. I was like, why don't y'all? Because Africans don't like African Americans. I don't know if you know this. Yeah, they don't. You know you don't. They'll be looking at me like, no, you're okay. They don't like us, yo. They don't like us. They be judging us. They be looking at us like, look at you, motherfucker. African American. My ass! You are not African!
American Aborigines. There were tribes that were already here. And unfortunately, most people still believe that all blacks came from the ships from Africa. So let's talk about some of those statistics. According to PBS.org, only 12.5 million Africans were kidnapped from Africa, but only 10.7 million actually survived. And of that 10.7 million, 388,000 came to North America. And the rest were distributed to South America and the Caribbean. But the first people that were here were the American Aborigines. According to indigenousandamericans.com, the American Aborigines owned 1 million square miles worth of land in the Louisiana Territory, southeastern region of Florida, and the colony of California. In many areas of America, black nations existed way before Christopher Columbus even arrived. Those lands were rightfully the American Aborigines before they were stolen and given to the white settler. The American Aborigines that were stripped from their land were dumped in Oklahoma. And one of the most historic and sad tragedies was called the Trail of Tears. 40 to 90 Indians were placed there. The point is that the American Aborigines were here and they were here first.